Hello. So, they just announced that Corvus will be Hero of the Month for July. Corvus, he's right here. He is a tank hero. He has main hero strength. He also has the Undead attribute. Corvus. Not even death could stop Corvus once and for all. Resurrected by his daughter, he swore to protect the kingdom of Graven and its new Dominion allies from enemies once more. Woe be to those who cross the path of the king of the undead. Alright, so... Right, his ultimate is a Strike of the Damned. It does physical damage to the front line of an enemy team. It temporarily decreases their stats, however, it is a debuff, so it does get blocked by Purifying Seer or Serenity and gets removed by those effects, so this ends up not being nearly as good as it seems like it would be on paper, so most times it's just physical damage, but it does have a status debuff. It's probably his weakest ability of his whole kit here. Unity of the Damned, this increases his undead allies' physical and magic damage for 10 seconds, so this is a passive. It buffs his own physical attack as well as Morgan's, Phobos, or any undead minions Morgan has summoned. Not too impressive, but it is a nice bonus. Like I said, if you're using Morgan, this does give her minions quite a boost, because 10% boost is pretty nice. Also boosts her healing, since she uses magic attack. Altar of Souls. This is the biggest ability. This is the main reason people use Corvus. This is by far his best ability. So Corvus conjures an altar in the center of his team. The altar does pure damage to the enemy heroes. Whenever they deal damage to allied heroes, the altar's health decreases when allies take damage. So the damage the altar does is based on his health, and the altar health is also based on his health. So health ends up being his most important stat. Rail defense, so when an ally drops below 20%, Corvus moves into the center of the team, could be triggered once every 8 seconds. So if an ally ends up in critical health, he moves to the center of the team. This isn't too relevant in PvE. In some cases, you have to be careful, like if you're fighting a Jew team or something, this might actually be detrimental. Like if you had Martha in the back and Martha goes to low health, but then he moves Martha away from the back, then he leaves your squishies exposed to him. This is kind of this is one of those abilities that has, I think, more utility in like PvE settings. Like in PvE, right, this a lot of times you'll use Corvus behind Aurora versus Osh. Like in the guild wars or the guild raids, you'll have Aurora, Corvus, Morgan in the same team. Usually Dorian's in that same team. And when Dorian gets hit with some meteors or whatever, Corvus will then move Dorian to be right next to Corvus and stuff. So that then all of Morgan's minions and Aurora and Corvus all get that vampirism, which is really good at defeating those defensive seers. Like that's probably the biggest use for this. The other time this becomes relevant is if you're using Corvus as an off tank, and like I said, usually behind Aurora Cleaver. Like there's only 3 tanks you could sit behind. There: Chaba, Aurora, Cleaver, and usually you don't see Chaba, so it's usually Aurora Cleaver. Like say Aurora, say you're playing with Aurora, she drops a bit low life, and this pushes her back just for a few seconds. You won't. So she'll run back up to the front, but it can be relevant sometimes. Enough for like Aurora to get some healing, or just like I said, take a bit of pressure off her. But yeah, it's not that great. It's mostly about that Altar of Souls, and as such, health becomes his best stat. So when looking at his skins, he has strength, physical attack. Obviously, strength is by far his best one, because this raises his health. Physical attack skins are pretty meh. Like I said, it always raises strength first, then physical attack. Glyph, same thing. Health first, then strength. And then probably the armor and magic defense, because I don't really use Corvus as a main tank. He's too squishy to kind of use a main tank at the high end. Like, I mostly just use him for the guild raids, so I've been focused on his physical attack in this case. But for most players, that would probably be the last glyph you would get if you're trying to tank with him. But I already have Aurora invested, so I don't really need to do this that much. Artifacts, so his artifact weapon buffs armor, his book buffs his armor and magic defense, and his screen buffs his strength. This should be your first priority here. Getting his health high as you can is the most important thing. So for him, Reign of Strength is probably the one you want to focus on, followed by the weapon. And then the book would be last on his. And then Ascension. He does not have any Ascension abilities yet. like I said, but he does have some armor. Like I said, the main thing you're looking for is all these strength and health glyphs. Right, he has some armor glyphs as well. Magic defense, physical attack. Like I said, we've talked about. It's not too relevant. It does help his ult do a bit more damage, but physical attack's not too relevant for him. You know, the main thing you're on after is the armor, magic defense, the health, and the strength. There's actually no health on this tier. Notice that there's not that much health. That's kind of a downside to Corvus. He doesn't have enough health nodes. Like he does have some, but not as many as some of the other heroes. So, like there's no health nodes on this tier, just strength. So he could have definitely benefited from more health nodes. So because that would give him more damage with his Altar Souls. Teams you would use him with, like I said, I think most on the high end, I think he usually fits best behind. Let's see, do we have any max teams? They're all auto. They're all like one hero. Okay. Alright, so let's put in a team to test against here. Let's just drop in a Holy Trinity and then figure out a couple of other heroes to place here. Do like Arachnamaya here. It's probably a bad team to test against, but we'll do it anyway. Alright, so let's grab Aurora and then Corvus. Where is Corvus down here? You can do Oliver or Albus. Like, if it's off tank, you probably want Albus there. Usually we'd have Sebastian. And you know, like, let's just roll the Holy Trinity plus Morgan here. Like, this is actually an okay team. Right, Morgan you usually would use against Rufus, but let's see how this does. Like, this honestly might be okay. Let's put Oliver here. Let's put Fenris there. Let's see how this does against the Arachnamaya team. Because there's a lot of AE damage, so this actually might work for the altar here. So the altar is going to do a lot of damage to, like, everything. Like the Aurora spamming, like you see the... There you go. Right, Corvus kind of squished in main tank. That's why you put him behind a stronger tank like Aurora. And this just allows him to do his DPS. Alright, the altar's down, but we took out their front line. Right, so there you go. That's a win. Like I said, Corvus has great DPS potential, and that's kind of, you almost have to think of him, rather than think of his tank, think of it as like a DPS. Like an Arachne, like I said, or Morgan, I've talked about this before in my Rufus Arachne team video, that Morgan's minions really distract Arachne from getting her targets, but like, look at that, Corvus was top DPS. This is the main reason you use Corvus. Like, he's a bit squishy to use as the main tank, but behind Aurora, this, you know, gets covers for the squishiness and allows him, that way you can also just use Albus to try to maximize his DPS and just kind of go to town that way. That's kind of, I think, what I found to be like generally the best way to use Corvus. Right, you can actually beat quite a variety of teams this way. Yo, Morgan might not be the best spot here. There is some synergy between Corvus and Morgan, though. Morgan you'd probably really only use versus like Rufus teams. This line probably works okay versus that Dante Arachne Rufus team I showed you, but you know, then like I said, you know, though Yasmin is also fine in that, and we were trying to find one that beat all four of those lines. But yeah, anyway, I hope you guys found this video fun and informative. Thank you for watching.